The wait is over. 98.5 Speed FM.
Catch us if you can.
Stay here with you. You are a rainbow, so I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. You are my favorite song. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. Same. Your love is constant. You've never lost it. Your voice is calling out my name. It makes me miss you, even when I'm with you. Oh, nobody wants to go it alone, and I just wanna stay here with you. So I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. You are my favorite song. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky
A speedy welcome to the show for everyone. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and it's Thursday, the 4th day of June 2026. It's 3 minutes past 9 a.m. Now, the Speed Lane is where we talk about real life issues, issues that affect our lives, our communities, our persons, and even society at large. Now, before we go into today's discussion, let me just say it's a new day, and as always, we are grateful for life, for growth, and for the opportunity to have conversations that make us think beyond the surface of everyday behavior. Now, today's topic, today's focus is something very common, something most people have experienced but not always have a name for. That is over familiarity. Now, what exactly do we mean when we say that over familiarity? Is that stage where people become so close, so used to each other, or so comfortable with each other that certain lines begin to blur, lines of respect, lines of boundaries, communication, and even behavior. And it's not just about being so close, it's about becoming too comfortable in a way that changes how people treat each other. And the truth is, this happens in almost every part of life. Let's start from even the home. In homes, you may notice that a child can be extremely respectful when speaking to outsiders, very polite, very careful with words, mindful of tone. But when it comes to the people they are closest with, or the people who have maybe let themselves, sometimes maybe even parents and siblings, even in that home, a child might have a siblings that they are over familiar with, that they are so close to, and that is the one that he or she might not even respect, or when that one talks, it's more like they are not even saying anything, but then the other person, that is when the child actually listens. The same level of caution may not always be there. The speech becomes more casual, the attitude more relaxed, sometimes even too bold, even when respect still exists at the core. Now, even in friendships, it's the same thing. Two people can start as very respectful friends, very careful with how they talk to each other, with boundaries, but as time passes, when one person lets themselves, or maybe somehow it gets to a situation of over familiarity, that disrespect increases. Suddenly jokes become sharper, responses become quicker, patience becomes shorter, and sometimes one person starts taking the other person for granted without even realizing it. Even in workplaces, over familiarity can also show up. An employee who once spoke very respectfully to a superior may begin to become too relaxed over time. The boundaries between professionalism and even personal comfort start to blur. Instructions may no longer be taken with the same seriousness, and communication may become too casual simply because we are now close. I have let that person come so close to me, and now, they get to talk to me however they want. They get to do anything, however they want. Even in communities, landlords, tenants, neighbors, familiarity sometimes changes the tone of interaction. You have a neighbor, and maybe there was that respect boundary, because you were not over familiar with that person. You had not let yourself, and all of a sudden, maybe you say, okay, we are just people, and this person is my neighbor after all. And then you give them that space and let that over familiarity just rule. And somehow, this neighbor that would never just maybe talk to you like that, all of a sudden you even talk and they will even wave you. Or maybe this neighbor that would not just pick your items, cannot just come and carry your slippers from your door. All of a sudden that neighbor can now do that because you have let yourself that far, when it comes to that familiarity. So today, let us talk about it. That is where our conversation becomes very important, because over familiarity is not just about closeness. It's about what happens to behavior when that closeness increases. So today, why does familiarity, over familiarity sometimes lead to loss of respect or boundaries? Why does it bring disrespect? Is it that people naturally become too relaxed, when they no longer feel distance? Or is it that some people take advantage of closeness to behave differently? Or is it that respect requires a certain level of structure that familiarity sometimes removes? And you hear people, say things like, it's me that even let myself. If only I was not this familiar, if only I did not allow myself like this for this child, he or she would not have been talking to me like this. A child that was calling you uncle, that was maybe so respectful, all of a sudden, because you have started playing that much with them, it becomes a situation where they no longer even feel like somebody is talking. They can even talk back to you, your neighbor that that wouldn't do something like this before. All of a sudden, because you got that familiar with them, then this is how they talk to you. Maybe even in a situation of a work environment, that okay, this is not a way that the inferior usually talks to you, but somehow you became over familiar with that person, and then the disrespect also worked in. So today on the speed lane, that is what we are talking about. Why does over familiarity always bring disrespect? When you are too close to that person, why does it likely bring that disrespect? Have you ever experienced a situation where someone began to treat you differently because you got close to that person? They started maybe disrespecting you, crossing those boundaries like nothing even happened. Or have you also maybe found yourself treating someone differently once you became too familiar with that person? That is our focus today on the speed lane. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. This is the speed lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and this morning on the show we are talking about over familiarity. Why does it always bring disrespect when you get too close to someone? And people will say, okay, there is no need for you to actually be rigid, there is no need for you to be strict, there is no need for you to be like this. Okay, so you just allow yourself, okay, so people don't fear me, so people be like this. Hello. Hello. All right, you can still call us back to be part of the show. Hello. All right, and people would advise, okay, just be like this. Why are you taking yourself? If you're too strict, it's more like, okay, you're making yourself too scary for people, and then you're supposed to allow maybe even be close to other people. Well, what happens when that happens? The disrespect that actually comes with it. Have you ever been in that situation? Sometimes it's even a child that, okay, maybe this child was so respectful, and you were moved to maybe become so familiar with that person, and all of a sudden that child that was referring to you as uncle, one day he will call you by your name and then even tell you things, or even refuse to listen to what you are saying, simply because you became over familiar with that child. So what happens? Why does over familiarity always bring disrespect? Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
All right, Sir Benjamin Eigege is my name. And I'm calling from Yaba North Bank, Makodi.
All right, welcome to the show, Sir Benjamin.
Thank you very much. There's often a say that over familiarity breeds contents. It is very true. You have said everything all. You see, when you get too close to people, people begin to look at you as equal. Especially children. In my language, in my local dialect, they say the day you begin to play with children, when you begin to play with children, the day your mother dies, they will call you for a play. Because you have become too familiar with them, and the child believe that he has equal right or is equal to you. So he can talk to you. Look at in our workplaces. Sometimes the manager may decide to keep away. The same people will begin to say, after what does he think of himself? Oh, this man is too rigid. He doesn't interact with people. But the moment you begin to interact with them, you have already bought a market for yourself. So it is because people look at themselves equal when you bring yourself down, which is not wrong, which is not right. So that is one of the reasons.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sir Benjamin, for calling in to be part of the show this morning. And this is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Move Jacob. I'm calling from North Bank, Makode.
All right, welcome to the show, Jacob.
Yeah. Well, from the look of things, in my own perspective, one of the reasons that cause disrespect out of over
Familiarity.
Yeah, is because when first of all, is before you will not be over familiar with someone, that very person has to be person that feels there is nothing in this life. Let me be with people they will also feel love, and then some other people misuse that for taking you for granted. Then when any issues arise, then you will not see disrespect out of it. So from my own point of view, I think this is one of the factors that causes disrespect.
All right.
Over familiarity.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacob, for calling in to be part of the show this morning. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. You also can call in and be part of the show. Hello.
Yes, good morning, madam.
Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Gum Esu Emmanuel.
And where have you called us from today?
Calling from Makeup Nigeria Limited, producers of Never Rise.
All right, welcome to the show.
Yeah, you see, we human beings are social beings. So we relate with each other, even at home, at the place of work. but there is always that room for that of there is always room for that over familiarity. Because when you relate with people, they get familiar with you. But you must create boundary to avoid disrespect. I hope you are with me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you must create boundary to avoid disrespect. For example, I'm working at Makeup Nigeria Limited. They are familiar with me. We have been greeting, good morning, good afternoon. I've been giving instructions. But there is a boundary I set.
Okay.
When it comes to work-related issues, you don't have to compromise. When you begin to compromise standard, work have ethics.
Okay.
So when you are working in a place and you are dealing with the ethics of the work, and you don't compromise, there's just no way somebody will disrespect you. And when you don't take side when it comes to work-related issues.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, when you don't take side when it comes to work-related issues, then nobody will disrespect you in the office. For example, when matters arise in office and you are taking side, you have one time, maybe because maybe you are into maybe a relationship or maybe you are eyeing somebody in the office and some of those things. And you begin to show favor on the side, and most times disrespect may come in. But when you are on a neutral ground,
yes,
and when you're on the neutral ground, when you're on the neutral ground and you speak concerning certain issues, then nobody will disrespect you. But when you just give in on certain enticement or certain things that will make you compromise, definitely somebody will disrespect. Even in marriage. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, even in marriage, there are times that.
Hello. All right. You can still call back to be part of the show. Once again, Mr. Gum Emmanuel. Now, this is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I am your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. We are talking about over familiarity. Why does it always bring that disrespect? Simply because, you've become, as someone mentioned that, okay, when you start taking somebody like, okay, we are the same human beings, I want this person to be comfortable, I want this person to feel loved, and then somehow bring yourself to a certain point, then it brings that disrespect. It always draws that disrespect, and somehow there's actually maybe something that we need to understand about it, because one would think that is when you show someone love, when you are that close to someone, and when you let them be able to talk to you whenever they have things to say, things like that is when it would actually maybe encourage them to even respect you more, and then even look at you as someone. But then it keeps happening the opposite way. For some persons, it actually goes smoothly. It's not all the time. There are people who actually know, okay, simply because this person is acting like this, is this friendly, is this familiar with me, it doesn't mean that I should overstep. There are people who still know those boundaries, people who still take those things seriously. I still know you as my uncle, even if you are talking to me like, even if you have played with me like this, I still know you as my uncle. And then you also can still call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. Call in and let us hear from you this morning on the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. We are talking about over familiarity. So let us hear what you have to say. Have you ever been in that situation? Maybe something like that happened to you. Maybe you had a neighbor, and then there were boundaries. It always starts with boundaries, and then everything is like that. And the next thing, you get too familiar with that person, and somehow it becomes a case where they can even take your key, go in and do things that you do not approve of. And someone was mentioning that even when it comes to marriages, and that is actually true. Because sometimes, maybe that person is even you, and that person, you are partners. But then somehow, when certain boundaries are crossed, or maybe you allow them to be crossed for one day, and then the next day, and somehow, someone would say, some persons will frame it as, okay, they don't see hair on your head again, and then it just becomes that kind of level. Or sometimes even with a child and a parent, because okay, one might say, oh, I want to be this close to my parent, I want to my child, I want to allow them to be able to talk like this, to become that familiar with me. But does it get bad at a point where they no longer even bring that respect, because they know that, okay, mommy is not going to be angry, or I can talk to mommy, like after all, mommy allows this to happen. She allows me to just walk up to her and then hit her, and what she can do about it is just maybe laugh about it. No, don't do this again. And it keeps happening on to the point where it can no longer be controlled, causing certain drift, certain issues between people, whether whatever situation that over familiarity is happening in, whether it's a workplace, whether it's a family, whether it's a neighborhood, a community, there are different places. So you can still call in and be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090-3648-5868. We are talking about over familiarity. Why does it bring disrespect? Why does it always maybe move from that part of, okay, we are now friends, we are now familiar with each other, we are now close to each other, instead of it to actually be aiding the respect? Okay, since this person is that friendly with me, they deserve my respect. Instead, it be doing the opposite, bringing that disrespect closer and closer. Hello? Okay, please move away from your radio set or turn down the volume, and then you can still call us back to be part of the show on 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about over familiarity. Why does it always bring disrespect? And also, we are streaming live on Facebook at Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM Makodi. So you can watch live on Facebook and then even leave a comment if you have something to say. Have you ever been in that situation? There are most people who have actually gone through this than we can even think of, because sometimes it seems like something is not there. It's just because people are not talking about it. Someone just says, oh, at the end of the day, they just realize it's me that allowed myself. Now, if I knew I should not have been playing with this child like this, I shouldn't have let myself, like this with this child. But does that mean that we should not become, strict and not friendly, never get familiar with anyone? We'll come to that. But we heard from Sir Benjamin Egege, and he says people begin to look at you as equal once that over familiarity enters. They begin to look at you as equal, like this person, we are the same person now, and then I can do this, I can do that. And there's one thing about human beings, about testing boundary. Today they say something like this to you, you don't react, or you take it as a joke. Tomorrow they add another one to it, and it keeps going until, they just keep testing the waters until it gets to a point where it becomes disrespect. And then maybe at that point you're not happy with it, but you're thinking about how far I have come with this person, and then how would I just maybe push them away, send them away, or how do I even make it seem like it's not trouble at that point? We also heard from Jacob, who spoke about people taking you for granted once they see that, okay, you are pouring all that love, or you are trying to just show that, okay, there shouldn't be any difference. And what actually leads to this over familiarity in the first place is people trying to show that, okay, you can be comfortable here, you can talk to me, you can come to me if you have issues like this that you want to talk about. You can be free to tell me the truth. You can be free to actually relate it like this with me, because I am not that scary, and I want to listen to you. But then it gets to a point where someone is taken for granted because maybe they have presented themselves in a way that, okay, there is nothing to fear after all. There is nothing that you can do after all. We are that close. Because if you take, for example, the way that your friends will talk to you is not the way that any random person, on the road will actually talk to you, because your friends feel that close to you. But what happens when it goes to the extreme, and then boundaries start getting affected? That disrespect just swoops in, and at that point you're uncomfortable, but then you're thinking about how far it has gone, how far this relationship have gone, this whole over familiarity has gone, and then how do you actually correct it at that point. So you can still call in and be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about over familiarity. Why does it always bring disrespect? Why does it lead to that place where boundaries will now be crossed? Different things will start even happen, things that should not have happened, would start happening because now over familiar. And also Gumteso Emmanuel said for something like that to actually be avoided, you have to set those boundaries. One thing that he does, especially when it comes to his work, he knows that this is time to play and this is time to actually work, because if things like that are not separated, then it becomes where maybe you're even trying to hurry up. Hello. All right, maybe it becomes something where you're even trying to maybe make someone who is under you an inferior maybe do something, but at that point they still think that you are joking about it, because usually maybe you come as you say it as a joke, and then when you are actually serious about it, maybe they don't even know at that point. You keep telling a child something as a joke, and then one day you're talking to them, and then they don't actually do that again because they have taken it that far, in their minds. Well, this person is not even serious. I am this close to this person. We are on the same level. And one funny thing is that the moment you try to change situations like that, then it becomes like you are the bad person. You're trying to just create a rift with that friendship, with that neighborhood, whatever it is, between the mother and the child, between the father and the child, between the husband and the wife. The moment you try to maybe get that respect back, it becomes tougher, than what should have actually been established right from the start. So you still can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. It's the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about over familiarity. Why does it bring that disrespect? Over familiarity does not happen overnight. It grows gradually through repeated interaction and then comfort, testing the waters. If you've heard that before, today someone is testing, can I actually cross this boundary? Okay, it's safe to cross. Can I go to the next one? Okay, she's not going to react, so I can keep going about it. Sometimes not even consciously, like people are saying, I have to keep testing, but it's just a human thing. And one other reason is that reduced formality. When people stop seeing each other as outsiders, they also stop maintaining the same level of caution, even in speech and then behavior. And then another reason is emotional comfort. Some people naturally relax more around those that they feel like, okay, this person they can trust. And then sometimes that relaxation becomes excess, and they don't even know, okay, this is how far I should go and this is where I shouldn't go anymore. There's also this issue of assumption, assuming that closeness automatically means tolerance, assuming that closeness automatically means tolerance. And in some cases, it's simply a lack of boundaries. People do not define how far is too far in behavior or communication. And all of those things pulls that disrespect slowly. Well, people even start complaining about and then saying, I don't know how to. Is it because I don't do this that these people are looking down on me? Is it because I let myself? And at that point, it's probably too late to maybe demand the respect back, because then they start looking at you like, oh, this person is just wicked. So you also can call in to be part of this conversation on the Speed Lane this morning on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And my name is Marysyntia Hangeior. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you. this morning on the speed lane. If that has ever happened to you, I mean, you can share with us some of those stories too, of where it actually happened, how it happened to you. Maybe it was you and a child, it was you and maybe a friendship, it was in a workplace, or it was in a neighborhood. You can share how it actually went about, because some of these things happen gradually, and at first you don't even notice that it's happening until when the disrespect actually accompanies it. And how does it actually affect those relationships, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's in neighborhoods, whether it's family members? In some cases, it can create misunderstanding because one person feels disrespected while the other persons feel they are simply being normal. That person is looking at you, or you are finding something disrespectful, but then the other person simply feels that it's normal. We are that close. Hello? 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 Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Onduwa. I'm coming from Hangeior.
Onduwa, could you speak up louder? Okay, maybe you have to call us back because we're finding it difficult to get to you, fight your network, and try to call us back. Hello? Hello? This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about over familiarity, why it always brings disrespect. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. And we are also streaming live on Facebook at Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. So you can watch live on Facebook and even leave a comment if you have something to say. We are talking about over familiarity. Have you ever gotten to that point where you became over familiar with someone and all of a sudden the disrespect came, whether a child, an adult, and whether it's in the family, whether it's with friendships, or maybe even your workplace? Let us hear what you have to say on 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Now, this doesn't mean that it's always the case, with everyone. It's not always the case, but then most of the time, actually, people are talking in regrets, like, I allowed myself. It's mean that it's see finish. That see finish that people keep talking about. It's see finish. I allowed myself to get this close, or I allowed myself to get this down. And there's actually a way of maybe relating with people and getting that close to them and still not letting it get to the point where boundaries are crossed. Disrespect now comes in. Hello? Disrespect now comes in. And we were talking about how it affects relationships, whatever relationships, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's in a neighborhood, anywhere at all you find yourself. Hello? All right, keep trying to call in. Hello? Okay, I see a lot of you are struggling, but keep trying and maybe you will catch up with us on 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you on the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM over familiarity. That is what we are talking about. And we first mentioned about hello. We first mentioned about one person feeling like it's completely normal and then the other person feeling disrespected. That is one way that it actually affects. And in other cases, it reduces that appreciation when people become too used to each other, and they may stop valuing the relationship as they should. They may stop valuing that, and then no appreciation, or things are just looked at like it's a normal thing now. Why should I feel like this person is even doing anything important when it's a normal thing? It can also create that imbalance, where one person becomes too casual while the other person still expects respect and structure. And then sometimes it gets to a point where hate will even arise. Hate will start, some of these conflicts will start arising simply because there wasn't able to be a balance that, or a boundary set that will make sure that it doesn't go far to that point where one person feels disrespected and the other person just thinks it's normal. Over time, it can lead to conflict. Hello? Keep trying. Number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. We are talking about over familiarity. Call in and share yours. Let us hear your thoughts. Hello?
Yes, it's Boom Emmanuel Tesu back online. I was calling them, my time finished.
Oh, okay. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, very much. You see, another issue is that, you see, when people when you have a service to offer, and people are so used to that service and they don't value it any longer. They feel where they can get it from anywhere. And that is one of another reason that people feel disrespected. People disrespect people. You with me?
Yeah.
Yes. When you have a service to offer, and you have been offering this service, and people are so used to it, so they feel that service is it's a normal thing. Yes, they can get it from anywhere, but that should not be the case.
Okay.
Yes, that should not be the case, because as we render our service, the service you render is unique, and most of the times when you don't value it, the person leaves. You will not get it, and it will not be the person. Some people are so selfless that whenever they see somebody with a challenge, they try to put in. So when you begin to disrespect, or when you begin to become so familiar with that person, and the person pull out, definitely you will not get it. So that is one of the reasons why people disrespect or don't respect people as a result of over familiarity. Okay. Yes.
All right.
So it's normal. It's just normal with people. It's normal with people. For example, your child. When your child now feels that it's a normal thing for daddy or mommy to provide food in the house, and then he now feels that he will waste food.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yes. Go on.
He will now feel he will waste food. Then definitely, when you withdraw from supplying the food, the child will get starved. That is why it's just a normal. I don't know. It's just one thing that people just feel, and people just feel. Even the adults or even the children, they feel it's a normal thing. The world is everything is getting at the platter of gold. Everything is cheap.
Okay.
It's not everything that is cheap. Thank you very much.
All right. So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that people should even stop being over familiar at all?
Louder.
Okay, would you say that people should stop being over familiar at all, or is there a certain way that you can even interact with people that maybe you personally do without allowing it to get to that point where it becomes disrespect?
Yes, it's very possible, because it's positioning. You have to position yourself in a way that people should know that this is not gotten at the platter of gold. Yes, if other people are giving at the platter of gold, as for me, it is not. Yes. For example, you learn a skill, and then somebody else is doing it doing it in another way, and you are doing it a special way. When you have a restaurant and you touch everything and everything is fine, somebody else is giving another service that your own is far more better than that.
Okay.
And even no matter how they get familiar with you, your own is still better.
Okay.
So they should not disrespect you, because when you pull out, they will not get what you are offering.
Okay.
Yes, it's all about defining what you want at the very beginning. Yes, when you define what you want at the very beginning, no matter how they get familiar with you, they know that this person, this is the standard he has, and he will not going to compromise. That is it.
All right.
I grew up in. My father who was in service. He's a uniform man.
Yes.
Yes, and he normally gives me fish to go and pay even from when I was small. And he always tell me that if you spend your fees, you are Oyo.
Okay.
Yes, you are learning. The certificate is the certificate is you are going to get it. Your name is going to carry him. With a police officer, he's already going. You understand? So that actually made me to be strict. So when money is given to me, I'll ensure that I will go and pay my fees.
All right.
I started paying my fees. I think right from my secondary school myself to the university level. So if you feel that maybe getting money is very easy, and then you now spend your fees, and then you go back, you are on your own. No.
Okay.
And will not look at you.
All right.
You understand? So children are familiar with their parents. So a parent should define his own terms that this is what he wants. So no matter I'm familiar with my dad, even this money is full. I will not go beyond this what he didn't like.
All right.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, that is my take.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in once again to be part of the show, Gumte Soimano. All right. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. We are talking about over familiarity. You also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. Let us hear you on over familiarity. Have you ever been in that situation where somehow you got so close to someone and then it became it just drew that disrespect closer, and they weren't seeing you as anything as much as a big deal? Again, let's use it as that. So we heard from Gumte Soimano once again, and he thinks that a way out of this, a balance would be defining what you actually want, how you're going to be with that person from the very beginning. Because once it's not there, like I mentioned earlier, testing the waters, once people test today and they say, oh, I can just call this I can just insult this man as a joke, and he will take it. Tomorrow it will be in front of 1 million people, 1,000 people, and they will still say that insult, and oh, it's as a joke. I can just disrespect this person as a joke, and then he or she can take it. Nothing is going to happen. And he also says that sometimes when people don't value what you're giving, maybe they don't value how maybe friendly that you are with them, and they feel like is it not just this relationship that we have, whose neighbor doesn't behave like that with them, and I can actually get this from anywhere else? That is when they start to disrespect. That is when it becomes that over familiarity breeding that disrespect. So what would actually happen there? He says that as long as you are showing them that, okay, I can give this and I can still take away, I can be this friendly with you, but then when it gets to a point where even small hints of disrespect, because that is one mistake that people also make as well, when they see like little disrespect, they take that one of, oh, I'll just allow this slide. But then the next day the person comes with 2, and the other day they come with 3 more, and it just keeps increasing to the point where when you try to correct it, it's more like you are a bad person. So you also can still call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. Is it possible to be that close to someone and still maintain that respect? Is it possible to actually be that close to someone and still maintain that respect? Then how? Some persons have mentioned how, defining what you want, how you're going to be with the person right from the start, and then what other way? How do you think it can even be possible to do that? Or does it mean that closeness automatically reduces the formality, reduces the respect, and then boundaries are just pushed aside like nothing happens, simply because you are now chatting with this neighbor, and then it becomes a case where they can go to your room? Sometimes it happens like it gets to that point, they can enter your room without your permission, and even go and dish food. And someone might think that is actually funny, but it goes up to that point. It goes way up there, even when that's not the situation. In different situations, not just with the case of a neighbor, it could be with a friend, it could be in a workspace, it could be in a market, it could be anywhere, it could be with your own child, it could be with your own spouse. So it happens at different levels. So what do we then do? Avoid getting familiar and just become that strict person, or what do we actually do? And like one that you already mentioned is defining, and then what you're going to give from the first place, making sure that they value it. And then another thing will be to maybe call out certain behaviors, because when people shy away from calling out certain behavior, or even behaving in a way that they would know, if your son today crosses a boundary because you're over familiar and then maybe slaps you, and then you just say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, and then you don't even behave in a way that is going to make him to understand that this behavior is actually bad, tomorrow he's likely to do that 2 times, and then it keeps going on and on, to the point where maybe when you even start to talk about a behavior that has been there for over time, it becomes difficult to actually correct. It becomes difficult to actually push and then instill that boundary that was once there once again. And you can still call in to be part of this conversation before we go. And the number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. Hello? Hello? All right. You can still call us and let us hear your take. And if you've been in those situations, then you know how it can actually be. So what are the things that one would actually do to make sure that it doesn't get to that point? Because if you want to say, oh, I don't get familiar with anyone at all, it is a human thing. But then to what extent are you also protecting yourself to not let it get to that point? Hello? Hello? Okay, it's really quiet over there and we cannot hear you, but if you call back quickly, you would still catch up with us before we go on 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM, and I'm your host on the show this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about over familiarity. What is the way out? What can we actually do to avoid that from even bringing disrespect? Hello? All right, keep trying, and if you're calling quickly, you catch up with us. And as we wrap up today's discussion, one thing is clear, that familiarity is not the problem, but over familiarity can sometimes maybe change the way people treat each other, and then slowly break those boundaries, and then lead to disrespect. And then it gets to a point where even when you try to then put those boundaries back, it now looks like maybe you're becoming mean or you're becoming a bad person, and just brings conflicts because things were not clearly stated or they were not defined right from time. That is it on the Speed Lane today. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we have been talking about over familiarity. And also coming up next at 10 a.m. is King James 90s Top 10 right here on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And until then, keep enjoying music of your life. And also don't forget to remember to keep listening to Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM.
Hello, my Cootie. Asking